Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. There's a lot going on in the news, a lot going on in the country, many challenges we face. And amongst all that, the only thing that really unites the Republican Party right now is not any kind of particular policy. It's not even fealty to Donald Trump. No, the defining project of the Republican Party right now is just holding on to power, even at the expense of democracy. I mean, we all saw, right, the ugliest manifestation of this on January 6th, when a Trump mob tried to stop the certification of a Democratic election. But of course, it didn't stop there. As we've been following on this show, people like Mo Brooks in Alabama, Josh Mandel in Ohio, and Jody Hice in Georgia are running campaigns for office fundamentally grounded in the idea that the last election should have been overturned because, well, they won't quite say it this way, but because they didn't like the result. And Republicans are, of course, now using their power in state legislatures across the country to push restrictions in dozens of states designed to make it harder for many Americans to vote. There's not really, I got to say, much of a substantive agenda here. Some stuff about immigration. They don't like cancel culture, etc. The big thing, the big central focus is just literally do whatever it takes to keep power, whether that means lying or fear-mongering or undermining democracy. That is the project right now of the Republican Party. And this was clear even before the last few months, right? Back in January, remember, we had that runoff in Georgia a day before January 6th. While the Democratic candidates on the ground in Georgia were offering this substantive agenda to voters, right? We're going to protect health care amidst this pandemic, including COVID relief. We're going to send out survival checks. Republicans are making an argument not based on policy, but pushing the big lie and more importantly, offering a message that boiled down to keep them out of power. Fear the Democrats, keep them out of power, keep us in power or else. That was the argument down the stretch. So now we have a 50-50 Senate with Democratic control of the House, the presidency, the very, very rare trifecta in a polarized nation. And that has all come despite the structural conditions of the country and the polarization of the two coalitions that mean Democrats have to win by larger and larger margins. House seats are gerrymandered largely to give Republicans an advantage. The Senate is massively biased and getting more so to give outsized power to rural Republican voters. The Electoral College is structured such that even though President Biden won the popular vote by more than 7 million votes, not a close election, beat the guy by a lot, just 44,000 votes in Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin separated Biden and Trump from a tie in the Electoral College. Over the last 20 plus years, 28 years, Republicans are consistently losing a majority of Americans in big national elections. They are increasingly focused on entrenching minority rule. And the place where all of this comes together, right, the through lines that course through our democracy and our democratic life is in the use of minority rule in the United States Senate via the filibuster, which, of course, makes it impossible to pass almost all legislation without 60 votes. Now, many Democrats now say that needs to change. And as a result, Republicans are quite palpably freaking out. Axios reports that President Biden recently met with historians to discuss getting rid of the filibuster and is, quote, fully prepared to support the dashing of the Senate's filibuster rule to allow Democrats to pass voting rights and other legislation for this party. And Senate Republicans, you can sort of see the fear in their eyes. They see the writing on the wall. You got Democrat after Democrat coming out for some form of filibuster reform, including relative moderates, institutionalists like Amy Klobuchar, who you wouldn't necessarily expect to do so. Senator Angus King of Maine, writing in the Washington Post just today, if forced to choose between a Senate rule and democracy itself, I know where I will come down. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer is pushing hard for the passage of H.R. 1, that comprehensive voting rights bill that would likely require weakening or getting rid of the filibuster.
I would like to ask my Republican colleagues, why are you so afraid of democracy? Why, instead of trying to win voters over that you lost in the last election, are you trying to prevent them from voting?
Now, in response to the prospect of losing the filibuster, Mitch McConnell has been threatening to go bonkers, right, to lay waste to the Senate, making it so that nothing can be passed. Everything would grind to a halt. It would be a non-functional body. And one of the things he's trying to counter is the notion the filibuster has fundamentally been used as an institution to preserve white supremacy in America. You know, Barack Obama pointedly made this argument last year at the funeral for civil rights icon John Lewis when he called for equal representation of all Americans.
And if all this takes eliminating the filibuster, another Jim Crow relic, in order to secure the God-given rights of every American, then that's what we should do.
Another Jim Crow relic. Not mincing words there. So then yesterday, when Mitch McConnell was asked about the historical use of the filibuster to suppress black votes, he said this.
It has no racial history at all. None. So there's no dispute among historians about that.
That's a bald-faced lie, as bald-faced lies anything Donald Trump has said. McConnell's spokesman later claimed the minority leader was referring to the origins of the Senate filibuster when he made that comment, as opposed to its actual use, which he certainly didn't seem to be. Now, the origins of the filibuster are, in fact, kind of random, almost accidental. They involve Aaron Burr, the guy who shot Hamilton, and a ruling on an obscure bit of Senate procedure. The actual use of the filibuster, as it's developed, has been almost more than anything a tool of the white supremacist South and a cudgel to block civil rights. Starting with one of the great villains of American history, John C. Calhoun, who first realized it could be used to preserve the power of the slave states. In 1922, the filibuster was used to kill an anti-lynching bill that would combat the Ku Klux Klan. Infamous segregationist Senator Strom Thurmond filibustered for 24 hours straight to stall the Civil Rights Act in 1957, and a record-setting 60-day filibuster almost killed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Of course, back then they had to actually do the talking. Actual historians, people that do study this, as opposed to Mitch McConnell, say the filibuster has been used to deny black rights for more than a century. Not exclusively. It's been used for other stuff, but that has been a central theme here. And now Republicans are willing to use it to block a bill that would prevent the GOP from suppressing voters, specifically African-American votes, and would have the effect of making our elections more fair. By the way, for everyone. Like, Election Day as a national holiday would be good for Republicans who work on that day, too. So then the big question is, what are Democrats willing to do about it?